So welcome to Ashtanga inspired mindful movement. So it's possibly that you might need a block and a strap. If you haven't got blocks, a book. If you haven't got straps, a dressing gown, belt or a belt, whichever works for you. So just have them quite handy at the front of the mat. We're going to start with a few sun salutations at the start. We're going to take them nice and easy. The lowest sort of easiness measure that we can do in sun salutations is just to warm the body up a little bit and just get the feeling of a little bit of flexibility back. So if you want to come to the front of your mat, so although this at the moment I'm classing as the front of the mat, I am actually going to eventually class the long edge as the front of the mat. So if you want to set your camera angle up so that you are looking at the camera with the long edge of the mat in front of you, so you can see more of what's happening. But I will just be taking you to the side of the mat to start this practice. So get yourself set up. If you need to pause me to do that, feel free to do so. I'll start with a video, feel free to play whenever you're ready. So keeping the feet hip width apart, just take a moment in standing anatomical position to take a scan of the head, down to the fingertips, down to the toe tips, just checking in with how your own personal body feels as you've arrived on the mat today, whatever time of day that may be, whether it's morning, noon or evening. The body will feel different at different parts of the day, usually a little stiffer in the morning compared to the evening. But in the evening it can quite feel a little more fatigued, whereas in the morning you can feel a little more energetic. So lots of different reasons to practice at different parts of the day. So once you've taken a scan of that body from the top of the head to the base of the feet and checked in with any tight spots, any injuries, bring the attention to the breath. Using just the nose if you can, or the mouth if you need to, if you're holding colds or allergies. But if you're using just the nose, try and connect with that Ujjayi breath, that slight restriction at the back of the throat. Take a deep breath in and a long breath out. Breathe in, bring the hands up and over the head, palms together at the top. As you breathe out, bend the knees, start to fold from the hips as you bring the hands down towards the floor. Next breath in, come up to a half lift, straighten the legs. Place the hands on the shins. As you breathe out, bring the hands to the floor, step back with your right foot, drop that right knee, lift up the chest just for a breath. And then place the hands flat on the floor, lift the back knee, step your left foot back to meet the right. Then drop down the knees, slowly bring that body down towards the floor, nice and slowly. Untuck the toes, take a little baby cobra and lift up the chest. Then release the chest back down, tuck under the toes. Bring those chests back towards those thighs, forehead to the mat. Then push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips. Start to paddle the feet as you arrive in your first downward facing dog. When you're happy to bring those heels to stillness, encourage them down towards the floor and just take a soft bend in the knees, just to give a little space through those hamstrings so they're not feeling overstretched at the start. Take a nice long deep breath in and a long breath out. Come down onto the knees. Step your right foot through in between the hands. Just hold it in low lunge for a breath. The back toes tuck under. We step the back foot to meet the right foot and allow that body to fold over those legs. Your next breath in, bring those hands all the way up to the ceiling. Palms come together. Bring the hands to the chest. Samastiti Hi. Breath in, raise those hands back up towards the ceiling. Your breath out, bend the knees, fold from the hips, bring the hands to the floor. Take a breath in, come up to a half lift. Place the hands on the shins, straighten the legs. Breath out, release the hands back down, step back with your left foot. Drop that back knee. Just hold it there for a breath. Lift up through the chest. And then lift that back knee, step your right foot back to meet the left. Drop down with the knees. Bring the elbows into the ribs as you release down towards the floor. Untuck the toes, push into the hands and lift up the chest. Release that chest back down and tuck under the toes. Bring the chest back to the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet and lift up the hips. And squeeze the heels back or paddle those feet for a few breaths. Holding it in down dog. Hands shoulder width apart, feet hip width apart. Just bringing one heel down at a time or both heels just to get the stretch through the back of the legs. Micro bend the knees if you need to. And then bring the knees to the floor. Bring your left foot through in between the hands. Sink the hips, hold it in low lunge for a breath. Tuck the back toes under, lift the back knees. Step your right foot to meet the left. Forward fold, let the head hang, crown point to the floor. Breath in, bring those hands all the way up towards the ceiling, palms come together. Breath out, bring the hands to the chest, Samastiti He. We'll do that one more time on both sides. Breath in, raise the hands up to the ceiling. Breath out, fold from the hips, bend from the knees, let the hands come to the floor. Breath in, come up to a half lift, place the hands on the shins, straighten the legs. Breath out, release the hands back down, step your right foot back, drop that back knee, just lift up through the chest for a breath. Then place the hands down, lift the back knee, step the left foot back to meet the right. Drop down with the knees, bring the elbows into the ribs as you slowly release to the mat. Untuck the toes, push into the hands, lift up the chest, release the chest down, tuck under the toes, bring the chest back to the thighs, push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips and squeeze those heels back. This time maybe holding it in a static down dog, remembering that the toes are in front of the heels, middle finger in the centre, pushing forward towards the front of the mat. Next breath out, drop down the knees, bring your right foot through in between the hands, sink the hips for a breath. Make sure the back toes tuck under as you lift the back knees, step your left foot to meet the right, let the body forward fold over the legs. Breath in, bring those hands up to the ceiling, bring the palms together at the top. Bring the hands to the chest, Samastiti He. One more time with the left foot. Raise the hands up towards the ceiling, palms come together. Breath out, bend into the knees, fold from the hips, bring the hands to the floor, let the head point down. Breath in, come up to a half lift, hands on shins, straighten the legs, straighten the back. Breath out, release the hands to the floor, step your left foot back, drop the back knee, lift up through the chest for a breath. Then place the hands down, lift the back knee, step the right foot back to meet the left. Drop down with the knees, bring the elbows to graze the ribs as you release to the floor. Untuck the toes, push into the hands, lift up the chest. Release the chest down, tuck under the toes, bring the chest back to the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips and squeeze those heels back. Take a breath in, take a breath out and release the knees to the floor. Bring your left foot in between the hands, sink the hips for a breath. Back toes tuck under, lift the back knee, step the right foot to meet the left. Let the body fold over those legs. Next breath in, bring the hands up to the ceiling. Palms come together at the top, bring the hands to the chest. Samastiti He. Hold it here for a few breaths. Feel that balance in both feet, maybe closing the eyes. Then turn around to your long edge of the mat, hoping that that long edge is facing the camera now, because we'll be doing most things from this direction. When you're ready to open the eyes, bring the hands down by the sides of the body. Breath in, raise the hands up to the ceiling. As you breathe out, bend from the hips, try and keep the knees straight, bring the hands to wherever they reach. It may be the floor, it may be the ankles, it may be the shins. Breath in, come up to a half lift. Breath out, draw the belly back, fold over those legs, let the head point down to the floor. Try and encourage yourself on every out breath a little closer to those thighs. Next breath in, come up to a half lift. Next breath out, again fold over those legs. Feel all points of the feet touching the floor. Try and use the hands wherever they are to encourage yourself a little closer towards those thighs. Either holding the ankles, maybe holding the big toes, maybe placing the hands under the feet, whatever your body allows you to reach. Let go of anything you're holding in the neck. Just let that head hang. Let that neck get some traction as it's pointing towards the floor, gravity taking a hold. Your next breath in, come up to a half lift. Place the hands on the hips, take a breath out. Next breath in, bring yourself all the way up to standing, shoulders stack over the hips. Take a wide stance with both of the legs. So I'm going to mirror image you here. So take a turn of the left toes towards the left side of the mat. Right toes are staying where they are, facing the long edge. Reach out with the hands. Reach out with that left arm towards the left side of the room. Then bring that left hand either to the inside of the shin or the ankle. If you wish to use a block, place that block just in front of that left foot. Your right hand reaches up, your gaze is towards that right thumb. Feeling that stretch along that right side of the waist. Try not to hyperextend in that left knee. Try and keep a micro bend in it just to help those muscles engage in those thighs. Maybe gaze up towards that thumb. If you're using a block, maybe you're going to keep hold of that block throughout the practice. So I'm going to show everything with the block. If you don't need to use the block, feel free to not do and just bring the hand to wherever it reaches, whether that's the floor or the inside or outside of the leg as I instruct. Your next breath in, bring those shoulders back over those hips. Swap the block into the opposite hand if you're using a block. Turn your left foot in, your right foot out. Reach the arms out to the side. Then stretch out to the right side of the room. Bring that right hand to the inside of that right foot, inside of the shin or onto a block. Keep that straight line from the hand of the left down to the hand of the right. Try and tuck under with the bum cheek on that right leg and turn out that left hip. Long, easy breaths in. Long, easy breaths out, creating some space down that right side waist. Feeling the stretch along the left side waist. Not hyperextending that right knee, keeping a little micro bend in there to engage that thigh. So we're not locking out the joint, we're not hyperextending. We're using the muscles to control that joint. Keep the head in line with the spine as you gaze up towards that left hand. So your next breath in, we have to engage those oblique muscles to lift those shoulders back over the hips. So now we're going to turn your left toes back to the left side of the mat. Turn your shoulders towards the left side of the room. Now this right foot is turning to the edge. The left foot is turning to the short edge. The block is now in your right hand. Reach up towards the ceiling with the block and then reach forward and bring it to the outside of that left foot and that right hand comes on top. If you're not using the block, bring it to the outside of that left leg. Turn and twist the body to the back of the room. Then reach up with that left hand to the ceiling to take that twisted triangle pose. Rotation of triangle. So try to encourage your left hip back, your right hip forward, both feet pushing into the mat, grounding through both soles. The gaze can be up to the left hand. That left shoulder stacks on top of the right as we twist around to the back of the room. Taking one more breath in this position. Then bringing that left hand back down to the hip, raise the right hand up to the ceiling. Turn the body all the way now to the right side of the mat. Right toes are facing towards the right side, left toes are facing just outwardly. Now bring the block into your left hand. Reach up with the block up to the ceiling if you're using, if not just reach the hand up. Then reach forward with the left hand, bring the left hand to the outside edge of that right foot. The block can be placed or you can place it on the outside of that leg. Then turn and twist the body to the back of the room. Raise up that right hand to the ceiling, maybe gaze up towards that thumb. Encourage your left hip forward, your right hip back. Turn and twist in your triangle pose, your rotated triangle. So we're facing the back of the room. Try to stack your right shoulder on top of your left. Holding here just for another couple of breaths. Try not to lock out with that right knee. Keep it with a micro bend to protect that joint. Then release that right hand back to the hip. Release the left hand, bring it up towards the ceiling. Turn back to that long edge of your mat. Turn then your left toes back towards your left side. Widen the stance a little more. Take a bend into your left knee. Bring that block either to the inside edge of your left foot or the outside edge of your left foot. The left hand sits on top of the block or down onto the floor. You turn and twist the shoulders to the front. Reach up with your right hand. Then send your right hand over towards the left side of the room. Reaching as much as you can, as far as you can, so you get that stretch from the fingertips of that right hand all the way down to the toe tips of the right foot. You keep that bend in the left knee. You keep sinking those hips a little lower. Finding that compression through that left hip flexor. The extension through the right hip flexor. Push the hips forward, shoulders back. One more breath here in this wide side angle stretch. And then bring those shoulders back over the hips. Turn the toes. So now your left toes face the long edge, your right toes face to the right edge of the mat. Swap the block into your right hand. Take a bend into your right knee. Bring that block either to the inside or outside, depending on where you took it last time. Then reach up with the left hand to the ceiling. Then reach over to the right side of the room with that left hand. Sinking the hips, turning the chest and the hips towards the long edge. Pushing the hips forward, sending the shoulders back. Feeling that stretch from the fingertips of the left hand down towards the outside edge of that left foot. Bend into that right knee a little further to drop those hips a little lower. Keeping your left shoulder stacking on top of the right, your left bum cheek, your right bum cheek tucked under your left hip turned out. Holding it here just for one more breath. And then bring those shoulders back over the hips, straighten both legs. Then we're going to turn our chest towards the left side of the room. Take the block in your right hand, bend into your left knee, bring the block to the outside edge, and we're finding that bend in that knee. If you're not using a block, bring that hand down to the floor, turn and twist towards the back of the room, and with that left leg bent, lift up with that left arm, and then reach forward towards the front of the room. Encourage the left hip back, the right hip forward, twist and rotate, holding just for a couple of breaths. Maybe if you find it hard to hold the block, maybe bring the hands together at the chest and find that rotation through the waist by hooking your right arm over your left knee. Then taking the shoulders back around towards that long edge of the mat, turn the feet. So now the right foot is facing that right edge of the mat. Turn the hips and shoulders to face the same direction. Bring your block into your left hand. Take a bend into your right knee. Bring that block to the outside edge. Maybe step the other foot back a little further. Use that block as an anchor, or use the elbow of that left arm onto that right knee to make a twist. Turning and facing the body to the back of the room. Trying to feel that rotation in the waist. Encouraging your right hip back, your left hip forward. Pushing nice and strongly into the outside edge of that left foot. Holding here just for another couple of breaths, facing the direction of the back of the room. If you've not used the block, take the block back in the hand, straighten up through the body, turn both sets of toes towards that long edge of the mat, heels pointing out, toes point slightly in, raise the hands up to the ceiling. Then as you breathe out, fold from the hips to a half fold, arms forward. Take another breath in. Take a breath out, bring that block to the floor so you can reach. If the hands already come to the floor, feel free just to place them either side of the block or just on the mat if you're not using a block. And just let that body fold over those thighs. Take a breath in, come up to a half lift. Maybe the hands are on the block or on the floor, depending on where you can reach. As you breathe out, just allow that body to fold a little deeper over those thighs. That head doesn't have to come to the block or the floor, wherever you can reach. Your next breath in, bring those bodies up to a half lift, bring the hands onto the thighs. Next breath in, let the body come with the shoulders to stack over the hips. Then heel toe the feet back into the centre. And then just bring your body into that anatomical position, just moving the block out the way if it's there in the way. Roll the shoulders up and back towards those hips. Take a bend into your left knee and bring the weight into your right foot. Turn the knee out and find a place for that foot on the inside of that right thigh. Or if that doesn't reach, bring it to the inside of that right calf. If you're not happy with bringing that leg high or those toes off the mat, just place those toes on the floor for a little support. Make sure the hips are facing forward, that left knee's turning out. Find that place, find a focal point in front of you. Once you've found a point of rest, a point of balance, bring those hands to the chest in the centre. Hold it here for a few breaths, feeling the grounding of both feet into the mat. Maybe you want to bring that foot a little higher if you've got that range of movement in the hips. If the foot's high, push the foot into the thigh and the thigh back into the foot. Or the foot into the calf and the calf back into the foot. Resist with both. Holding it here for a few breaths. Finding that equilibrium of the body, that core centre switching on. Those bums tucked under, grow through the crown, lift through the chest, relax through the shoulders. Holding for another few breaths. Then release the hands to the hips, release the foot to the floor, take a paddle of the feet, and we'll take that on the other side. So bringing your weight this time into your left foot, bringing that knee of the right up, either keeping the toes on the floor or turning the knee out, or bringing it into the shin or into the upper thigh, wherever works for you. Wherever it's placed, push in to either the thigh or the calf. Make sure it's not on the knee. Once you've found the legs, bring the hands together at the chest. Keep the hips facing forward, your right knee turned out to the side. Push those bum cheeks under, draw those ribs and hips into a tether. Lift up through the chest, relax through the shoulders, keep that focal point in front of you. Relaxed in the jaw, relaxed in the forehead. Everything just taking on their own little muscle movements, their own little muscle contractions. Finding that space of balance. Noticing how those muscles in the ankle of that left foot as you're holding the balance are working. Those small muscles are twitching. Long breaths in, long breaths out. One more breath in this position. Then release the hands to the hips, then release that foot to the floor, take a paddle of the feet. So we're going to be taking another standing balance. You may wish to use your strap or your tie of your dressing gown. So we're going to be bringing that hooking over your left foot. And then come up to the top of the strap with the hands. Then bring your weight into your right foot. Take a bend into your left knee. Then walk the hand far down the strap as you can take it. Let the strap hang to the side. Bring your right hand onto the hip. And then straighten through your left leg, pushing that heel forward towards me at the front. Toes of the foot back towards the shins, so those left toes are squeezing back, the left heel's pushing forward. Hold it one more breath here, and then take that leg out to the side just for a breath. Shoulders and hips facing forward, and then bring that foot back to the center. Release that foot to the floor. Swap over feet, so stepping now your right foot into the strap, taking your left foot out. Find the grounding in your left foot. Take a bend into your right knee. Take the hand as far down the strap as you can. Let the strap then hang down the side. Bring your left hand onto your hip. Then straighten your right leg out. Heel pushing towards me, toes back to the shins. So that right leg straight and lifted. Heel pushing away, toes pulling back. Find that focal point in front of you, that point, that gaze, that drishti point. And then for a breath, send that leg out to the side. Keep the hips and shoulders facing forward. Holding just for one more breath. And then bringing that foot back to the center. Release that foot to the floor. And take a paddle of the feet, a little movement through the hips. So releasing that strap down by the side of the mat, move the block out of the way just for a moment. Have the feet hip width apart, lift up the arms, and as you lift up the arms, start to bend into the knees, finding that chair position, tucking the bums under, drawing the bellies back, lifting the arms as high as you can take them without flaring the ribs. Toes in front of the heels, feather-like touching the toes, more weight into the back of the foot than it is in the front of the foot. Maybe sit a little lower into those seats. Holding here just for another couple of breaths, feeling those muscles work in those thighs. And then straighten up the legs, bring the hands to the chest, take a moment with the eyes closed, feet hip width apart, feeling the ball of the foot, the heel of the foot, the outside edges, the inside edges, the grounding through the whole base, sole of the foot. Bring the hands back to the hips, walk the feet out nice and wide. Turning your left toes towards that short edge of the mat on the left side, turning the hips and the shoulders. So letting your right leg, heel turn out slightly, toes turn out. Take a bend into your left knee, reach the arms up to the ceiling, bring the palms together at the top, point up with the index finger, last three fingers interlaced, finding warrior one, maybe gazing up towards those fingertips, bending into that left knee, encourage the right hip forward, left hip back, so the shoulders and the hips are facing that short edge, left side of the room. Breathing deeply in through the nose, out through the nose if you're choosing to use that Ujjayi breath, that slight restriction at the back of the throat. Keeping the arms where they are, pivot on the feet. So now we're turning the right toes to the right side of the room, left toes slightly in. Then take a bend into now your right knee, hips and shoulders facing the right side of the room. Arms are still lifting up to the ceiling with the interlace of the last three fingers. Index finger pointing up, both thumbs wrapped around each other. Relaxing through the shoulders, lengthening through the arms. Try not to flare through the ribs too much. As you bend deeper into that right leg, push more into the outside edge of that left foot. One more breath here. Then bring the hands to the chest, turn back around to the front of the room, into that long edge of the mat. Then turn again your left toes out to the left edge. Take a bend into that left knee. Shoulders and hips are still facing that long edge of the mat now. We're pushing into the outside edge of your right foot, the whole of the front foot. And we're finding warrior two position here. So feel like you're encouraging that right knee out to the side, tucking that bum under, lifting through the chest but not flaring through the ribs. Maybe sinking into that left knee a little further to try and bring that thigh of the left a little more parallel towards the floor. Nice deep breaths in, long breaths out. And then straightening through that left leg, turn the left toes, turn the right toes to the right side, hips stay forward, shoulders stay forward. Bend then into your right knee. Encourage your right knee out to the side, shoulders stack over the hips, crown of the head on top of the spine. Fingertips reaching to the left and right sides of the room as you sink a little lower into those hips. Long breaths in, relax shoulders as you breathe out. Try not to let that belly pop, try and draw it back. One more breath here. And then straighten up through both legs, turn both sets of toes, heel toe the feet in a little. Then turning towards the left side of the room. So we've got a slightly smaller stance in between both feet. Heel toe your left foot out to the side, so we've got a little wider stance. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, fold from the hips to fold over that left leg. Another long breath in here, elongate the spine. As you breathe out, fold over those legs a little deeper and try and feel that stretch on that left hamstring into that left glute. Encourage your right hip around your left hip back, using the hands to guide the hips. Use the breath maybe to find a little more depth over that leg. Then as you take another breath in, lift those shoulders back up, turn the feet, turn to the right side, heel toe that right foot out to the side a little. Breathe in, elongate, breathe out, fold to a half fold. Another breath in, lengthen the spine. Breath out, fold over that right leg. This time encouraging your left hip forward, your right hip back to align that pelvis, to get it neutral. As you fold over that right thigh, trying to encourage that head as close towards that shin as it can come. Keeping a little space through the front of the chest, the shoulder blades drawn back into those back pockets. Use those hands to guide those hips to neutral. One more breath here. And then lifting the chest, slowly back up, turning back towards that long edge of the mat. Heel toe the feet back into the centre. Have the feet so they're hip width apart. Breathe in, bring the hands up and over the head, palms together at the top. As you breathe out, fold from the hips, bringing those hands down to the floor, to wherever they reach. Let the head go, let the head hang. Breath in, come up to a half lift onto the fingertips. Breath out, fold it over the legs. Maybe those hands are only coming to the shins, that's fine. Keep using that breath to maybe find yourself going a little bit deeper as those muscles start to give from contraction, start to give space to stretch. Try and let go of the head, and then bend the knees slightly, let the chest sit on the thighs, take a hold of the elbows, give that head a nod, give that head a shake. And then when you're ready, coming to seated with your feet to the front of the mat, your bum's in the centre, bringing yourself down onto the floor to a seated position. Remove the flesh from the sit bones, drawing them back. Feet come together, toes drawn back to the shins, hands by the sides of the bum. Take a breath in, roll the shoulders up towards the ears, back down towards the hips. Take a close of the eyes. Feel the muscle engagement in the back to lift straight with the body. Try not to roll in the lower back. Then engage the thighs just to lift those heels away from the floor. And then release those heels back down. Your breath in raises the hands up to the ceiling. Your breath out folds over those legs to bring in the hands wherever they reach. It may be shins, ankles, feet. Breath in, elongate, lift up through the chest. Breath out, draw the abdominals back as you fold over those thighs. Just keep that breath coming. See if you can find a little more range of movement on every out breath. Keep pushing the heels away, keep bringing the toes back. Try not to roll through the spine, keep pushing those ribs forward. Long breaths in, long breaths out. Then lifting up through the chest, bring those shoulders back over the hips. Bring the hands to the fingertips pointing out. Take a bend into the knees, feet hip width apart, knees hip width apart. Push into the hands, push into the feet. Slowly raise those hips into our reverse tabletop, gazing up to the ceiling or in front of you, squeezing the bum to raise those hips a little higher. Long breaths in, long breaths out. Then release those bums back to the mat. Straighten through the legs. Give the legs a paddle, give the hands and wrists a shake. You may wish to use a block here. Take a bend into your left knee, let the left knee drop out to the side. If the left knee doesn't reach the floor, maybe it wants to be supported by the block or a book. Straighten through your right leg, trap your shoulders to the toes. Breathe in, length up through the spine, lift up through the arms. Breathe out, fold over that leg and bring that chest down as close as you can. Without that upper spine rolling, try and push that chest forward. Keep active through that right foot as you bring them back to the shins. Keep pushing that thigh into the mat, the knee into the mat, or back of the knee into the mat. Long breaths in, long breaths out. Then walking the hands back up to the bum. Bring the shoulders back over the hips. Straighten your left leg out. Take a bend now into your right knee. Let the knee drop out to the side. Support that knee if you wish with a block. I forgot to say with the last leg, if you want to use the strap, hook the strap around the foot. Breathe in, lengthen the spine. Use the strap to pull the toes back. As you breathe out, walk the hands down the strap if you're using it, to bring that fold over the legs. So really good to make an extension through the hands to the foot if they don't reach already. And you can use that strap as an anchor to help you draw yourself a little further down towards that thigh. Next breath in, let that chest come up, shoulders come back over the hips. Release the strap if you've used a strap, release the block if you've used a block. Give those legs a little paddle. Then take a bend into both knees. Let the knees drop externally. Let the feet stay together in the centre. Take a hold of the feet by interlacing the fingers around the toes. And just let those knees drop out to the side. Try and encourage those knees down as much as you can by switching the outside of the glutes on to stretch the inner adductors, those groin areas. Try and stay tall through the spine, relax through the shoulders, push the chest forward, but tether the ribs so we don't flare those ribs. Long breaths in, maybe move that body a little from side to side. Maybe we want to start folding over those feet, using those elbows just to push into those thighs a little Little movement as you start to fold over those legs. If this isn't comfortable to do, keep those shoulders over the hips. Use those elbows a little more, a little external strength to push those knees a little closer to the mat. But just switch into how that inner groin feels. If it's too much, take the pressure off. Then bring that chest back up. Then bring the knees back into the centre. Bring the hands behind you. Let the knees drop over to your left side. Keep the knees, ankles and feet stacked. Keep the shoulders facing the front of the mat. Get that twist through the waist. And then bring those knees back to the centre. Take them over to the other side. Shoulders stay facing forward. Feet, ankles, knees stay stacked. Get that twist in the waist. Bring those knees back into the centre. And then bring the feet back to that short edge of the mat. Straighten the legs. Reach out forward with the arms. Slowly bring yourself down to the mat, one vertebra at a time. Just bringing yourself into that supine position. Shoulders down, head down. Remove lower ponytails if they're in your way. Take a bend into both knees. Bring the feet in towards the bum. Knees are bent, knees hip width apart. Hands come down by the sides of the body. Push into the feet. Slowly curl up through that spine, bringing yourself into that bridge position. Gaze is up to the ceiling. Chin comes into the chest. Squeeze the bum. Maybe bring the hands underneath you. Maybe roll the shoulder blades together to maybe get a little more extension through that body. Try not to let the knees drop out. Keep squeezing that ball, that imaginary ball in between those knees. Try and push into the feet. Squeeze the bum a little harder to lift the hips a little higher. One more breath in this position. And then release the hands, release the shoulders out. Slowly curl back down, one vertebra at a time. Bringing those bums back to the floor. Bring the knees in towards the chest. Take a hold of both knees. Bring the forehead to the knees. Bring it into that fetal position. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Then release that shoulders to the mat. Bring the feet back to the floor. Take it into one more bridge. Push into the feet. Lift slowly up through the hips. Feel each part of the spine. Lift away from the mat. One vertebra at a time. Chin comes into the chest. Maybe roll of the shoulder blades in towards each other. Maybe an interlace of the fingers underneath the bum. Push into the feet. Squeeze the bum a little higher. One more breath here. Create space through the back of the neck. Then release the hands. Release the shoulders out. Slowly curl back down through that spine. And then taking the knees to drop into the centre, heel toe the feet out to the side. Bring the hands to a T shape. Let the knees go over to the right without the feet moving together. So we feel the stretch through that hip flexor on that left side. Maybe gaze towards that left hand, turn and twist through the cervical spine, the upper spine, and the twist comes in a little bit to that waist, into that thoracic spine. Then bring the knees into the centre, take the knees over this time then to your left side, your gaze over to your right side. Just allow the knees to relax, allow the shoulders to relax, the gaze towards that right hand. Long breaths. Bring the knees back into the centre. Bring the knees in then towards the chest. Then point the feet up to the ceiling. Just take a few moments with the legs elevated, taking a little pressure off the heart. Then take a bend into the knees. Let the knees drop over to the right side, the gaze over to the left side. Full twist through the waist. Then straighten that top leg out towards that right side of the mat to get a little stretch through that IT band. Keep that left shoulder grounded. Maybe gaze to that left hand. Maybe bring that right hand onto the top of that left knee just to encourage it down a little further, or even take a hold of the big toe on that left foot if you can reach. So remember that top left leg is straight as we move it over. Then take a bend back into that left knee. Bring those knees back into the centre. Then bring the knees over to your left side, your gaze over to your right side. Try and encourage the right shoulder down. If you want to straighten that top right leg, straighten it out, push the heel away. You can either place the left hand onto the top of that right knee or take a hold of the big toe on that right foot. Full twist of the spine, a stretch through the IT band. Then take a bend back into that right knee, bring the knees back into the centre, use the obliques to lift the knees. Straighten your left leg out, bring your right foot to the inside of the left thigh, let the right knee drop out as though we're in tree leg position but in supine position. Just have that external rotation of that right hip, try and keep that left sit bone grounded, hips neutral. Just letting gravity take that right knee out to the side. Then bringing that right knee back into the centre, bring the knee into the chest, give that knee a squeeze as close as you can in towards the torso. Then take that right knee to the outside of the right rib cage and squeeze it in towards the armpit. Hold it there just for a couple of breaths in hip compression. Bring it back to the centre, bring your left knee in to meet your right, straighten your right leg out, bring your left foot to the inside of the right thigh, arms out to a T shape, let that left knee drop out, try and keep the right hip in line with the left, don't let it lift and rock over to the left side. Just let the gravity take a hold of that left knee to get some external rotation. And then bringing that left knee back into the centre, bring that knee into the chest, take a hold of the knee, squeeze it into the torso as much as you can, and then take it to the outside of the left rib cage, squeezing the left knee into that left armpit. Bring that knee back into the centre, bring both knees in to join each other, plug the shoulders down, plug the tailbone down, squeeze the knees as tight as you can go. And then send the legs again back up to the ceiling just for a few more breaths with elevated limbs. Take the pressure off that heart before we take you down into relaxation for a few breaths. Keep pushing the heels away, straightening the legs as much as you can, bringing the toes back towards the shins. And then take a bend into the knees, release the feet to the floor, walk the feet to the long edge of the mat. Let the toes drop out, heels come in, feet mat width apart, turn the palms up to the ceiling. Take a nice long easy breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Just take a few breaths in relaxation. The eyes are closed, the tongue's dropping away from the roof of the mouth, the lips are gently parted. Everything supported by the floor. Maybe scan that body, check we're not holding any tension in any muscles. If you are, give them a squeeze and then let those muscles relax. Feel everything being supported by the mat, the clothes that are touching the skin, the parts of the body that are touching the floor. Bringing some movement back into the fingers, into the toes, Maybe bring in some rotation through those wrists and ankles. If you want to stay in relaxation for a little longer, feel free to do so. If you're coming with me, stretching through the fingertips, stretching through the toes, arching the back, and then bringing the hands back up and over, the knees into the chest. Give those knees a hug, a little rock of the body from side to side. And then take a roll over onto one side. Make a pillow with the hands. Take a long, easy breath in. Long breath out. And then making your way into a seated position, keeping the eyes closed. Bringing the legs either into cross position or coming onto the knees. Place the hands on top of the shins. Take a nice, long, deep breath in. Long breath out. Raise the hands up to the ceiling. Bring the palms together at the top. Bring the hands to the chest. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Savinyam Karavavahai Tejasvinam Vadidamastu Madvidvish Avahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Have peace in your thoughts, have peace in your words, have peace in your hearts. From my heart to yours, Namaste.